Merry meet and welcome to Soulful Sunday here at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoka and we are streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. I'm so happy to have you here today. Moderating today over on YouTube are the lovely Deline and the lovely Heather, and moderating on Twitch is the lovely Dre. Thank you so much, moderators, and thank you to everybody for being here today. We are here every Sunday, and I hope that you can join us again and again. We're actually here every single day except for Monday. This Tuesday is Tarot, every Tuesday is Tarot Tuesday, but this coming Tuesday, I believe, is the first Tuesday of the month, if I'm not mistaken. And let me make sure I'm correct on that. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, so not a week from Tuesday, not this Tuesday, but the week after will be the first Tuesday of the month. And so on Tarot Tuesday, on the first Tuesday of the month, you can get a one-on-one tarot reading with me on the stream. So a week from Tuesday, you can get on either YouTube or on Twitch on our live stream. That's going to be Tuesday the 7th. And put your name in the queue if you want to get a reading. And then this Tuesday, we will be having a regular tarot class. Now, Wednesday through Sunday, we have magic stream. By the way, on Tuesday, Tarot Tuesday, it starts at an odd time just because of my work schedule. So Tarot Tuesday streams always start at 9:45 a.m. Pacific, so that can be a little confusing because all the other magic streams from Wednesday through Sunday are at 10:15 a.m. Pacific. So Wednesday is Witchy Wednesday. That's usually some sort of practical magic. Thursday is Thrilling Thursday. That's usually some sort of magical theory lecture. Friday is Fearless Friday. That's usually the Witch's Rosary and sometimes the Shekinah invocation. Saturday is Soulful Saturday, and that's the day we do a psalm spell together. And then Sunday is Soulful Sunday. Did I say Psalmic Saturday on Saturday? Yeah, Saturday is Psalmic Saturday, and that's the day where we do a psalm spell together. Sunday is Soulful Sunday, and that's where we do a live stream lecture, and that's what we're going to start in just a couple minutes. If you have any questions, you can put them right on the chat thread today, and I will get to them before the end of the stream. We do not have a premiere at 11 just because I ran out of time, so we'll get that tomorrow morning. So if you're around tomorrow at 11 a.m. on YouTube, we will have a lecture tomorrow. I'm sorry, a premiere tomorrow. God, I have to go back to bed. I can't get my words together today. Let's see. We have all kinds of gorgeous stuff on our website, so give it a look. arielscorner.com. That's ariels-corner.com, and you can see all of the plethora of free courses, free lectures, free guided meditations, free booklets, and all manner of things available for you. And we have some community support available. We have a Discord server, we have a Facebook group, and we have a forum that's attached right to our website. So ariels-corner.com, Ariel's Corner with a hyphen.com. And then I'm sure that the moderators are putting links to the Discord server as well. Now, if you do want to get on Discord and you can't remember what the link was, you can go right to the forum on the website at ariels-corner.com, and when you click on that forum, a little pop-up will come up and it'll give you the current link to the Discord server. All right, I'm going to do my best today to get this together, so please be patient. Please be gentle with me today. I'm not at my very, very best, but I'm going to do my best. All right, let's see. If you're in a place where it is appropriate and comfortable for you to do so, please close your eyes and begin to take some slow, long, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and your mind. With every exhale, feel like you're allowing yourself to let go of all tension from your body and mind, along with anything you do not want. Inhaling peace and light, exhaling, letting go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it easily burns away everything that is unlike itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator, To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a God and Goddess, a mother and father. Into this space, we also invite the presence of our angels, our teachers, our guides. We ask that they join together with us as we dedicate this time that we spend together to each other and to them. We ask that we be guided and led as we walk upon the way, so that we can become happier, more peaceful, more prosperous, more healthy, and more loving people. Thank you very much, and if it is appropriate for you to do so, please join me out loud in saying the words, "Blessed be." All right, I had an idea of what I was going to talk about today, and I think I'm going to table that for next week. I did have a question that came in, so I thought we would just talk about this. Somebody on YouTube said, in response to a video, I think it was a psalm video, but their question was a good one. It says, I have a question. If all there is God, wouldn't all thoughts deemed bad or good come from God? If we are an extension of God, where else would a negative thought come from? A thought of separateness, perhaps. I hope this makes sense. Thank you. It does make sense. It's an excellent, excellent question, and it does seem very logical what you're saying. So I want to talk about that today. If all there is God, how can there be anything negative? And if there is something negative, doesn't that come from God? So let's first of all let's define terms. What is God? So the word God has so much stuff attached to it. It's a really loaded, easily triggering term. For us, God simply means the one source of all that is. So there's one source, one substance. There's a force, and there's only one creative force. And that creative force, like you said in your question, extends itself as you and as me. So in the mind of God, there is only oneness. So when we talk about things like, what did you call it? Negative thoughts, thoughts of separation, wouldn't they come from God? Well, thoughts of separation aren't technically thoughts, because God doesn't think thoughts of separation. So thoughts of separation aren't really thoughts at all. They're hallucinations, they're dreams, they're fantasies. See, what we have as extensions or children of God, creations of infinite intelligence, part of that love that we're extended as includes freedom. And we are free to use our minds. And there was an insane idea that we decided that we wanted to play around with. And this insane idea is, I wonder what life is like separate from God. And God can't stop us from using our minds any way that we want to. Otherwise, we would just be automatons. We wouldn't be sentient children of the infinite. So you could say indirectly that those thoughts come from God, except for when you're not thinking thoughts of God, you can't really be said to be thinking at all. You're sleeping, you're dreaming. So from a very, just from a maybe an ultimately cosmological point of view, this world that we're experiencing, this world of separation, isn't real. It isn't really happening. Our thoughts of separation aren't happening. And all of the effects of those thoughts of separation aren't really happening. Now, that's just coming from the point of view of infinite intelligence. Infinite intelligence knows that we're fine, knows that we are perfectly one, that we are happy, we are at one with our Creator, we are at one with each other, we are safely and gently living in bliss. But our Creator is also aware that we are having nightmares, that we are dreaming, that we have lulled ourselves to sleep with these ideas of thoughts of separation. And infinite intelligence will for us is that we awaken and that we have only those thoughts that are real, not those thoughts that are illusory. So it's just for us, it's a matter of time before we decide to wake up again. Just like you know that you're going to wake up in the morning, it's just a matter of time. But when you're dreaming, it can seem like centuries in your dream, even though maybe it was only a few moments. But in your mind, the way that your mind can use itself, it can concoct all kinds of thoughts that aren't real. Well, this world that we live in, and our waking consciousness is a type of dream. When you think of it like that, it's a type of nightmare, and it does seem like it's lasting forever, and it does seem like we've been maybe abandoned by infinite intelligence, or that we don't have infinite intelligence, and that we're all alone in the universe, or whatever our particular brand of nightmare happens to look like. But the truth is that infinite intelligence doesn't will for us to have those experiences. Infinite intelligence's will for us is that we be happy. And that's the only reality. And anything that doesn't look like that, we know is not real, is not really happening. Now, that's not to negate our experience within the nightmare. So a lot of people hear that it's an illusion, and they really misuse that data. They really misuse that concept. And they try to, either to themselves or to other people, deny someone's experience of this darkness that we are experiencing. In the realm of this hallucination that we are all having, in the realm of this nightmare, it does seem very real. And we never want to negate someone or our own experience within the nightmare, but we also don't want to swim in it either. Right? We want to acknowledge what we're experiencing, but we don't want to dwell in what we're experiencing. We don't want to miscreate even further, because that's what this whole world is. That's what all of those thoughts of separation are. They're miscreations. It's ways that we are creating by ourselves rather than co-creating with our infinite intelligence, our creator. So, and we are at liberty to do that. And it can seem like we delay for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. But as we've discovered, dreams don't have reality. Dreams don't represent reality. Dreams don't reflect truth. In truth, nothing ever happened. In truth, our dreams are not happening. Our nightmares are not happening, because they are not of God. They are not of infinite intelligence. So it's a very, very important question that you're asking. Let me just make sure I get it right. If all there is God, wouldn't all thoughts deemed bad or good come from God? No, only thoughts that are of God come from God. Thoughts which don't come from God don't exist. They don't exist. Now, we can dream them up. We have the right to do that. We can dream them up. But that's a delay. That's a nightmare. That's an illusion. That's a fantasy. You can dream, you can pretend that you're, the Queen of England, but that doesn't make it so. You can really come up with all of these ideas and really convince yourself that you're the Queen of England. But that doesn't make it so. It didn't come from England. Just because you decided to think thoughts of I'm Queen of England doesn't mean that you are, right? If you think thoughts that you're separate and alone from infinite intelligence, it doesn't mean that you are separate and alone from infinite intelligence, but it does mean that you believe that you are, and that you've created that experience for yourself. Now, just to make matters a little bit more confusing, it's not just us that we have to deal with. It's not just our own thoughts. In fact, if it was just our own thoughts that we had to deal with, it would be a lot easier. But we weren't raised by just ourselves. We were raised in communities. We were raised in families. We were raised with other people, other egos. And the ego mind is not an entity. It's a habit of thinking in a way that's separate. And so therefore it creates for itself an entire world based on its own illusions. And so we agree with one another about the illusion that we're experiencing. And we were raised to agree with the illusion that we're experienced. that we are experiencing. We were raised to believe that all of this is true. Probably if we were raised, by ourselves, we would have come to this realization and understanding a lot sooner that there is no separation, that all is one. So, infinite intelligence knows that we're suffering in our nightmare and doesn't will it to be that way, and is always sending us help, always bringing us the support and assistance that we need to gently awaken from that nightmare. And we will always awaken gently from that nightmare. Because that's the will of the infinite. But the detour can last for a long, long time within the realm of the hallucination because we will it that way. We as a species will it that way. We as a disconnected mind will it that way. And infinite intelligence has to respect that because we were created as respectful souls. So infinite intelligence has to honor our miscreations just because we created them. So over time, within the realm of the illusion, infinite intelligence, as we allow it to do so, can use all of the symbols within this negative experience that we have here, this dream world that we have here, to gently awaken us from the dream. There is no limit to the amount of healing that's available to us here to awaken from the dream. And that has to do with the idea of healing the illusion of separateness. And part of the illusion of separateness stems from the way that we treat each other, because we believe that there is an other. The world of separation is based on the rules that it establishes, that I'm over here and you're over there, that everything in the three-dimensional world exists as what it is based on everything that it is not. If you look at a table, your eyes experience that table because of the fact that there is negative space. And it says everything that's not the table exists outside of what the table is. And the same is true for me. Everything that exists that's not me exists outside of what I am. And so we are trained from the gate when we wake up into this world, when we're born into this world, to look at everything in regards, in terms of what it's not. And we don't even realize we're doing that. Because if you start to look at things differently, you realize that table doesn't exist separate from itself. You don't exist separate from yourself. Science is looking at things that way. When science looks at things as what they are, they recognize there is no table. There's no table. That's an illusion. There's a bunch of waves and particles, but there's no table. There's no you. There's no me, right? So, but we buy into the illusion because we were taught to buy into the illusion, and we were trained to buy into the illusion, and we continue to reinforce that illusion day after day after day after day. And part of what that illusion entails is not only that we are separate because of our bodies, but we have separate minds. We have separate personalities. We are separate individuals. Now, there's a difference between being separate and being unique. God created you as a unique soul, but you're also at one with all other souls, and both can exist at the same time, because that's how it works in infinite intelligence. But in this world, it doesn't work that way. In this world, you can only be unique if you are separate. And so to reinforce the idea of separation, the ego mind arises, which is a habit of thinking, a habit of perceiving everything as being separate, and it goes all out to reinforce that separation, because that's how it is. That's just how we are. That's our own brilliance that we decide to use in this manner, even though we don't recognize that we are making that decision. It's so automatic, we don't recognize we're making a decision to see things separately. So on the very basic level, we see things separately because we believe that our eyes are what are the organ of sight. We don't recognize that sight comes from another place that has nothing to do with our physical body. And when we are relegating our ability to do what we call see through our eyes, we see everything in a very limited way. Let's look at how your eyes perceive somebody leaving you in a car going down a country road. You see them driving away, and they get smaller and smaller, and then they disappear. Now, if you believed only in your eyes, you would believe that that person got smaller and just vanished and disappeared. We know that's not true. We understand that that's just an optical illusion, and we've learned to question that optical illusion, but we don't learn to question all the other optical illusions that are placed before our eyes. We don't ever get trained that what we see is not real. You hear things that point in the right direction, like how do you, the different people looking at an elephant. You've heard that context. Somebody looking at the trunk, they'll say it's this. Somebody looking at the tail will say that this is what an elephant is. Somebody that's looking at the foot, this is what an elephant is. But only when you get all those people's data compiled together do you realize, oh, I was looking at an elephant, but I only saw my one little perspective, right? But that's all of us. That's every little part of our lives. We only see one little tiny thing according to what our senses, our physical senses give us. But then we believe that it's all real. Right? And so that's just the first step is seeing each other as separate in different bodies. But then we see each other as being separate in different minds, different races, different political parties, different upbringings, different socioeconomic upbringings, all kinds of differentness. And then everybody is that thing over there to us. And no matter who it is, even the people that we so-called trust and love here, we can't completely trust and love them because they're over there. They're separate from us. They're different. And see, that's the fearful thought that we decided to adopt, which caused this whole experience to begin with, is using our mind to start to contemplate, I wonder what it's like to be all alone. I wonder what it's like to be completely separate. Well, and then we answered that question for ourselves, when we all arose and were born into this world of separation. So it's a matter of questioning each and every thought that doesn't come from infinite intelligence and recognizing if this isn't a loving thought, it can't be real. It's very easy to understand the difference between whether something is our ego or something is our soul based on the way it makes us feel. When we have an ego thought, the ego is there. It's like a computer program. We have programmed it to prove to us that we're alone, to prove to us that we're separate. And so anything that it can find, it will do its job to go out and tally it up and come back and prove to you how alone and separate you are. But your soul is not an ego, and your soul doesn't perceive things that way. Your soul's job is simply to extend love and to be itself. It doesn't see itself as being separate. So you know when it's your ego because it brings you feelings of fear or discontentment or lack of peace. You know it's your soul's thought when all you have is peace, when all you have is the desire to connect, when all you have is the desire to heal. And we've all had those experiences before where we felt at one with all things. And that was an experience of who we are as souls. But see, who you are as a soul is an extension of infinite intelligence. Who you are as an ego is not an extension of infinite intelligence because it's not there. It doesn't exist. We just think it does. We just concoct it that way, and we conspire with one another to concoct it that way. So we conspire with each other to keep this world of separation in place no matter what, because that's what we do. We're held hostage by our own ego, and then we have this Stockholm syndrome where we have to make sure not to hurt the ego, right? But I have to just always reiterate, the ego isn't a thing. It's not an entity. It's a habit. It's a way of perceiving things incorrectly. It's a belief system based on lies, based on untruths that we have told ourselves and convinced ourselves. In the Bible, that's symbolized by the fall from grace, the fall from the Garden of the expulsion out of the Garden of Eden. In reality, we weren't expelled out of anywhere. We're still there. We're still there, but we're just asleep. And it even says that in the Bible. It says Adam fell asleep, and that's when that in that story, that's when that demiurge created the separate self. It created a Eve out of a rib. That was a symbol of separation, a symbol of falling asleep to the truth, right? So we think that the big sin was the serpent tempting Eve into eating an apple. It's not the apple that's the problem. The problem is the idea that there's something outside of myself that I need in order to see the things the way God sees them. That's literally what that was. You don't see things the way God sees. So therefore you need something off this tree. So it wasn't the serpent that did that either, by the way. It was the character that was playing God in that story that did that. That's the character that created the two trees to begin with. That character wasn't God. That character is a stand-in for what they call the demiurge, or the beginnings of the ego. The beginning of this idea of separation started not with the serpent, but with the character playing God, which wasn't God. So that's the mystery of that story, is that the idea of the two trees is the problem. The idea of that tree of knowledge of good and evil being that you need something outside of yourself in order to see things properly, that's the fall right there. And see, it didn't happen. It didn't happen because it's not from God. Just like your question said, don't all things come from God? Yes, all things come from God, and whatever doesn't come from God isn't a thing. But we can believe it's a thing. Why? Because we have the freedom to do that. We were given free will. We can think anything we want to think, and we get the results of our thinking. And when we conspire with one another to keep a thought alive, we've seen how that can happen. Just in small amounts of time, you can see that that's what happened in Nazi Germany. You know, you can see that's happened in all kinds of smaller cult experiences where, suicide cults and things like that. People come together, they conspire together to believe something that's not real, and then they get the consequences of something that's not real. So if it can happen on the microcosm, why is it such a big stretch to think that it's happening throughout all time and space in this world? That big conspiracy of the ego is something that we all are a part of. And by choosing to see things in a different way, all you're doing is saying, I'm willing to see the truth instead of this. I'm willing to see the world as God sees it, rather than the way that I've been trained to see things from my ego and from other people's egos all this time. And that's what that gentle awakening is. That's what that enlightenment is, or if you're into the Christian concept, the second coming of Christ is. That's just it's another symbol. People get so lost in these symbols because that's what happens when the ego gets a hold of a symbol. When the ego gets a hold of a symbol, it uses it to create even further separation and division. But the symbol simply means that there's a time and space in this world where it has to end. This world is temporal, but infinite intelligence is infinite and eternal. And that's where we actually live right now. And so there's nothing but perfection for us. And anything that doesn't look like that perfection is a detour, is an illusion, is a fake, false, imposter self that we have decided to listen to, that we've decided to project onto our screen of space. So no, those negative thoughts don't come directly from God, but the good news is that they're not really thoughts at all. They're just hallucinations. They're just illusions. They're just mad dreams. But see, that's what we do, is we project onto everything on the screen of space that all that would make us feel guilty. That's what we do. We don't want to see that we're the source of any of our pain, so we project it on them. We project it on that person. We project it on God. We project it on religion. We project it on whatever we can so that it can look like we're being victimized by our own thoughts. Now, that's not to say that in this world there aren't real victims. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. It's usually cue angry people as soon as I say something like that, because you're misunderstanding. I'm not saying that we aren't victimized here. I'm saying that the world itself is a construct, is a projection of the mind based on all of our egos all at once. And yeah, we can be victimized by each other's egos, but ultimately there is no victimhood. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, there's only perfection, there's only love, and there's only oneness. And if we can get to that understanding, it makes operating and navigating in this world of illusion a lot different, because then we can call upon that higher power to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves, to help us to see things differently, to see the truth behind the reality. And it just takes daily practice. And that's why we do different kinds of spiritual practices, to allow ourselves to realign with the truth and with God's thoughts, infinite intelligence's thoughts, rather than allowing those automatic programs of our ego to be the only reality that we have. I hope that helps answer your question a little bit. Thank you so much for that question. It's a very, very good one. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. I so appreciate you. Let me see if I have any other questions. Oh, I do. Ariel, I get it, but the illusion has to come from somewhere, right? I may be overcomplicated. It comes from you. The illusion comes from you. The illusion comes from you saying, I don't want that. I don't want God. I want me. That's the arrogance of the ego. I want me. I want my thing. I want to prove to the, it's basically, I want the whole idea of God is, I want to prove to God how messed up God is, because look at me. Look at my life. Look at this world. Look how awful things can be. That's us using our thoughts against ourselves. That's us using our ideas against ourselves. That's us concocting the illusion for ourselves. So it says, I get it, but the illusion has to come from somewhere, right? I may be overcomplicating this for myself, but these illusions still exist within this realm. Yes, they do. That's the point. They exist in this realm. In this realm, not in God's realm. God's not responsible for our illusions, right? We want to blame God, but it's not God's fault. God's not doing it. God's not doing anything to us. God's very patiently waiting for us to start to use our minds in the right way. And at any moment of time and point of space, God is there to help us. And there are many mighty helpers available to us. If we calm our minds and we calm our bodies and we decide that we want peace instead of whatever it is that we're experiencing, if that is our goal is peace in any situation, we will be shown every single step of the way how to deliver ourselves from that particular illusion. If we decide to. That's because those corrective powers of God are always available to us if we want them. But we usually don't want them. We usually say, oh yeah, this is bad, this illusion's bad, but we don't want to give up all of the goodies that come along with it. We don't want to give up blaming other people. We don't want to give up blaming God. We don't want to take responsibility for how we're using our minds. We would rather not. We would rather say, oh, it's just the way things are. But it's not just the way things are. It's the way things appear to be. And nothing in this world is what you think it is, because you don't have the vantage point to see all of it. So if you are willing to say, I want to see the truth instead of this, and then allow that truth to be revealed to you, you will see that this illusion is not what you think it is. And it's really, really a good question. And you know what? The cool thing about all of this is you don't need to believe any of it. You don't need to believe me, but you can try it out for yourself and see. Isn't the personality and construct of the self you are using now to speak to us an obstacle to oneness with God? I don't know. Is my personality and my body an obstacle to oneness with God? It depends on how you use it. So what I'm saying here is that you can turn to God and to allow yourself to experience peace instead of whatever you're experiencing, and be taught and shown how to find your way out of the illusion. So that's me using my illusion to give you a hint about the truth. Now, if you're hearing that and that's causing you to feel more separate, then yeah, that didn't work. Then it didn't work. But if it's causing you to say, well, wait a minute, maybe I can find a different way of looking at this. Maybe I can call upon a higher power. Maybe I can be taught to see things differently. Maybe I can find forgiveness with this person, or maybe I can find forgiveness with myself. Maybe I can relax my body and mind and allow myself to experience peace instead of terror. Right? So if my words are helping you to find a little bit more peace, then they're being used in service of spirit. If my words are helping you find more tension and upset and more separation, then they're being used in service of the ego. And that's really up to you, right? It's really up to you. So I understand your frustration because you want it to be the way you want it to be. I understand that. I do too. We all want things to be the way we want them to be, but that's the ego's game. I want it thus. I want it thus. I want it thus. But you don't get to choose what reality looks like. You know, we can choose what, to some extent, what the illusion looks like. But even with that, we don't have as much choice sometimes as we want to have. Because not only are we experiencing this illusion through our own egos, but we are experiencing this illusion through everybody else's ego, through that big conspiracy that we've all put ourselves involved ourselves with. So it really is a moment by moment choice that we have to make. I'm willing to see the truth instead of this. I'm willing to find peace instead of this. And that's not always easy to do. And sometimes there's a process in this world that's involved. Sometimes you got to go through things that seem painful and not peaceful in order to find that peace. You know, sometimes forgiveness is something that you have to go through some darkness in order to find it. Sometimes you have to confront your fears in order to move past them. Right? So it's not just a matter of just saying, oh, well, it's all just an illusion anyway, so who cares? That's not what we're saying at all. You have to be very courageous to look at the illusion for what it is, and to want to get to the other side of it, to want to go through those rings of fear that you have that are standing in your way. It's much easier to just say, oh well, whatever. And that's not what we're saying at all. That it's just an illusion so that nothing matters. What we're saying is that it's not what you think it is, no matter how much you want it to be. Just like it's not, that person didn't get smaller and then disappear when they were leaving you. Why was the existence originally not made fail-proof to experience fallen experiences? I mean, infinite intelligence would have foreseen it would happen. You're talking like infinite intelligence lives in time. It's not happening. It's not happening. That's the whole point. This is not happening the way we think it is. From infinite intelligence's point of view, none of this is happening. The only thing infinite intelligence knows is that we're asleep and we're dreaming, and is here for us, waiting to help us wake up, should we decide to make it that way. But if you want an experience where infinite intelligence creates you and programs you, and you have no choice, then you're not going to be able to be alive. Right? Because freedom and freedom of choice is the bottom line of cause and effect. If you can't have choice to experience things the way you want to experience them, then infinite intelligence is not a loving creator. Infinite intelligence is just a taskmaster. Then you're just nothing but a slave. You know, that's what that would be. Infinite intelligence creates you, and you have to do exactly the way I say, and you have no choice, and I'm going to program you, and you're a robot. That's all that would be, an automaton experience. That's not loving. You were given life. You were given freedom. You were given choice, right? But ultimately, you can't undo what God did. You can't undo yourself. You can't make yourself less holy than you are. But that's what the ego wants to do. The ego wants to put up a fight. The ego wants to put up a fight against God, and God doesn't involve God's self in that fight, because God knows that there is no such thing as an ego. God knows that there is no such thing as a fight. God knows there is no such thing as this illusion. So that's ultimately why we forgive. We don't forgive to make other people feel better. We forgive to remind ourselves that it didn't happen, ultimately. We forgive so that we can understand that nothing is the way we think it is. That's why we do that. So thinking in terms of trying to look at infinite intelligence and the world of infinite intelligence as if it's a version of this world is the problem. It's not a version of this world. This is Alice in Wonderland that we live in. That is a creation of our own making. It's a dream. It's a nightmare. And there's a way out. There's a safe way out of this dream. It's a gentle awakening, and that happens by every single day finding that connection to infinite intelligence, finding that connection to our inner guidance, and finding that dedication and choice for having peace instead of the cacophony of negative experiences that we have in this world. Oh boy, another question. Here we go. Ariel Gatoga, what does waking up look like to you? Eastern meditators say identifying with human mind and body is an obstacle to oneness and God. Do you speak from experiential truth or concepts? Oy vey, that's a great question. Waking up is not something that we have to worry about as far as being like anything else. Waking up simply means choosing in the moment to experience love instead of fear. That's all it is. It's not something that happens in time. It happens in the moment. You can be awake right now if you want to be. If you choose love instead of fear, you're awake. If you're choosing fear, then you're asleep. Why? Because God didn't make fear. God didn't make anything but love. So if you're choosing love, and if you're choosing to be guided by the principles of love, then you're awakening. And then you realize that the things that your eyes see are different than the truth. And then that's when that spiritual sight starts to open, right? And then you realize why you're here from the point of view of a soul versus an ego. The soul exists here to help us awaken and help everybody else gently awaken. How do you do that? By loving, by giving love where there is fear. That's all. And it's something that you do in the moment. It's nothing that happens in time. It's nothing that's happened in time. We want to say, oh, back in the day, we fell from grace, or oh, in the future, we're all going to wake up and there's going to be heaven. No, it happens in the moment. It happens in the moment right here and right now. You can either fall or awaken depending on your own choice in each moment, right? So it doesn't matter ultimately what the illusion looks like if you are allowing yourself to be guided and led in the moment by infinite intelligence, by that force of love, by that force of healing. You are in a moment of awakening. If you are guided and led by those ego thought forms of fear, then you are in a moment of going to sleep. That's all. It's not very complicated. It's not even that dramatic. It's very gentle. It's very peaceful. And so, my life, I try to dedicate it to that awakening every moment. But it's not something that I can do and say, okay, now I'm going to have this, on 2023 is going to be this kind of a year of awakening. Then 2024 will be this kind of year of awakening. I have to do it every single moment. So I try to do my best to get up in the morning and do my meditation so that I can be under the direction of infinite intelligence the best I can be, so that I'm listening to that voice in my mind rather than the voice of my ego. Sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't, just like you. None of us are more or less potentially awakened than anybody else. There's not like these advanced teachers and these non-advanced teachers, or these advanced souls and unadvanced souls. We're all equally brilliant. We're all equally brilliant according to infinite intelligence. We are all bright, shining extensions of pure love and genius. And that's just how it goes. Now, when we get confused and when we make other choices and we choose outside of that realm, then we are reinforcing this illusion. But you'll see over time how when you listen to that voice of peace and you allow yourself to be guided by it, that's when time is your friend, because over time you see that you move out of those fearful experiences into those loving experiences, and your life starts to take on a very, very different meaning. Your life starts to look very different to you. Things start to change in very positive ways for you. Not because you're special, but because you're making the choice to listen to that voice rather than the voice of your ego. But remember, it happens in the moment. Hopefully that helped. All right, well, thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. I really appreciate you. I know this is a tough concept, and I appreciate the question, and I appreciate all the questions. They're really, really great. And we will be back for more fun on Tuesday. We're taking tomorrow off. So thank you for spending a little time with us. And thank you for the moderators today. Thank you to the moderators, Delene, Heather, and Dre. And we will see everybody hopefully on Tuesday for Tarot Tuesday. Much, much love and many, many blessings.